The first thing I felt was pain. The second thing I felt was the tightness of a blood pressure cuff squeezing my arm. Mr. Cole, can you hear me? I forced my eyes open. White ceiling. Bright lights. A woman in a white coat stood over me, clipboard in hand. Where? My throat felt like sandpaper. You're at St. Bernard's Hospital, she said. I'm Dr. Mitchell. You were in an accident at your construction site. A steel beam fell. You've got 2 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and a concussion. You're lucky to be alive. I tried to sit up. Pain shot through my side. Don't move, she said, pressing a hand gently against my shoulder. You need to stay still. I sank back into the pillow. How long have I been out? About 6 hours. She clicked her pen. I need to ask you a few questions for your chart. Fine. Any allergies to medication? No. Any major surgeries in the past? No. She kept writing, eyes on the clipboard. Next of kin? Someone we should call to let them know you're here. I stared at the ceiling. There's no one. Her pen stopped moving. No one at all. A parent? A sibling? No. Are your parents? They're alive, I said. As far as I know. She looked up from the clipboard for the first time. So there's someone. I just need a name and a number. That's all. I don't have any family, I said. Flat. Simple. The way I always said it. Not anymore. The room went quiet. I looked over at her, expecting the usual sympathetic nod. Instead, her face went pale. What did you say your name was again? She asked. Her voice had changed. Quieter. Tighter. Ethan Cole. It's on the chart. She looked down at the clipboard like she hadn't actually read it yet. Her hand trembled slightly. Dr. Mitchell? I'm sorry, she stopped herself. Cleared her throat. I need to check on something. I'll be right back. She turned toward the door. Her hand landed on the handle, and then it just stopped. She stood there for 3 full seconds, not moving, not speaking, her back to me. Are you okay? I asked. She didn't answer right away. When she finally turned around, I saw something on her face I hadn't seen since I met her 20 minutes ago. She looked scared. I'm fine, she said too fast. Get some rest, Mr. Cole. A nurse will be in soon to check your vitals. You didn't finish the questions. They can wait. She pulled the door open. Rest. And then she was gone, the door swinging shut behind her. I lay there in the silence, my ribs aching with every breath, staring at the spot where she'd been standing. A nurse came in a few minutes later, checked the monitors, and asked if I needed anything for the pain. I shook my head. I wasn't thinking about my ribs anymore. I don't have any family. I'd said those words 100 times before. To teachers. To landlords. To coworkers who asked why I never mentioned a hometown or showed up alone at the office Christmas party. Nobody ever reacted like that. Nobody's hand ever froze on a door handle like I'd punched them in the chest. I thought about her face. The color draining out of it in less than a second. The way she looked at my name on that clipboard like she was reading it for the first time, even though she must have known it before she walked in. Something wasn't right. I ran through it again, the pen stopping mid-sentence. The question about my parents. The way her voice dropped when she asked me to repeat my name, like she needed to hear it twice to believe it. I didn't know this woman. I'd never met her before today. So why did 4 simple words, I don't have any family, make Dr. Sarah Mitchell look like she'd seen a ghost? Maybe doctors got tired and reacted strangely sometimes. That was possible, but it didn't feel possible. Not with the way she'd said, I need to check on something, like she already knew what that something was. I closed my eyes, but sleep didn't come easy. Not with that question sitting in my chest, heavier than the pain in my ribs. Whoever she was, whatever she knew, one thing was certain. She knew something about me that I didn't. I was 16 the first time a doctor sat me down and used the word cancer. I didn't cry. My father did. We're going to fight this, Richard said, gripping my hand so hard it hurt. You hear me, Ethan? Whatever it takes. Okay, Dad. I mean it. Whatever it takes. For the first 2 weeks, he meant it. He was there every day after work, sitting in the plastic chair beside my bed, telling me about a game he'd watched or a job he'd finished. Diane came sometimes too, though she never stayed long. How's Jason doing? I asked her once. Fine. Worried about you, of course. She glanced at the door. Richard, can we talk outside for a minute? I heard them through the wall anyway. Hospitals aren't as soundproof as people think. Do you know what this is going to cost us? Diane's voice, sharp and low. We have Jason's college fund. We have the mortgage. He's my son. I know that. I'm not saying leave him. I'm saying we need a plan that doesn't bankrupt this family. What kind of plan? There are programs. State assistance. If he's a ward of the state, everything gets covered. Treatment, housing, all of it. You want me to give up custody of my son? I want you to think about Jason too. He didn't ask for any of this. I stopped listening after that. I stared at the ceiling tile with the water stain shaped like a rabbit and tried to convince myself I'd misheard. The visits got shorter after that conversation, then further apart. Then Richard stopped coming on weekdays. Then weekends too. Where's my dad? I asked a nurse one afternoon. I'm not sure, honey. Let me check with the front desk. Nobody ever had an answer. A month later, a social worker came in with a folder full of papers. Ethan, I need you to understand something, she said gently. Your father has signed over guardianship. You're going to be in the care of the state while you continue treatment. Why? I don't have all the details. I'm sorry. Can I call him? Can I just talk to him? We've tried reaching your parents. We haven't been able to locate them. That's not true, I said. I know their address. I know their phone number. I can give it to you right now. Ethan, I understand this is hard. You're not even trying. You're just saying words. She closed the folder without answering that. That silence told me more than anything she could have said. That was a lie, and even at 16, I knew it. You don't lose a house. You don't lose a phone number. They just stopped answering. I signed where she told me to sign because I didn't know what else to do. My hand was shaking so bad the pen skipped across the paper. I threw up that night. Not from the chemo. From something else entirely. That was the week I met Grace. She showed up with a cart of books and board games, wearing a volunteer badge that said Grace B. Candy Striper. You want a book or you want to lose at chess? She asked, dropping into the chair Richard used to sit in. I don't play chess. Even better. I like winning against people who don't know what they're doing. I almost laughed. First time in a month. I'm Grace, she said, setting up the board. I come here every Tuesday and Thursday. Fair warning, I talk a lot. Ethan. I know. It's on your door, genius. She beat me in 11 moves. Then she came back Thursday and beat me again. Don't you have friends your own age to bother? I asked one afternoon. You are my own age. And you're stuck in a bed, so you can't even run away from me. Lucky me. You are, actually. She moved her bishop. Most kids in here don't get visitors at all. I make sure they do. My dad used to visit. Used to. I didn't answer. She didn't push. She just kept playing, like silence was something she knew how to sit inside of. Checkmate, she said eventually. Already. You weren't paying attention. She started packing up the pieces. Same time Thursday. You don't have to keep coming. She looked at me like I'd said something ridiculous. I know I don't have to, Ethan. I want to. Nobody had said that to me in months. Not my father. Not Diane. Not one single person who was supposed to love me by blood. I didn't trust it at first. I kept waiting for her to stop showing up too, the way everyone else had. But Grace kept coming back every single time, Tuesday after Tuesday, Thursday after Thursday, for the rest of that year. She was the only one who did. A different nurse checked my vitals the next morning. Older, kind eyes, badge that read Olivia Turner. Where's Dr. Mitchell? I asked. She's not on your case today. Olivia adjusted my 4-line, her movements quick and practiced. Dr. Reyes is taking over your rounds from here. Why the switch? Yesterday, she seemed pretty invested in my chart. Olivia paused, just slightly, like she was choosing her words carefully. That's actually a little unusual, come to think of it. Dr. Mitchell doesn't normally request patients personally. She just gets assigned whoever's next on the board that day. She requested me? On purpose. That's what I heard from one of the other nurses. Don't quote me on it. I could be wrong. She checked the monitor readings and jotted something down. You know her from somewhere? Old family friend, maybe? I don't think so. I'd remember a face like that. Huh. Strange. Olivia shrugged and moved toward the door. Well, whatever it is, it's not really my business. Get some rest, Mr. Cole. She left, and I lay there turning the word requested over in my head. People didn't request random construction workers with 2 broken ribs. Not unless there was a reason. The door opened again an hour later. A woman in scrubs walked in, and it took me a second to place her. Ethan Cole, she said, smiling. I thought that was your name on the board. Grace, you remember me. I'm almost offended it took you a second. You cut your hair. It's been 13 years, Ethan. A lot's changed. She pulled a chair up beside the bed, same as she used to. I'm a nurse here now. Pediatric wing, mostly, but I cover other floors when we're short-staffed. I can't believe you're actually here. I can't believe you're still getting yourself hurt. Chess wasn't dangerous enough for you. I laughed, and it hurt my ribs, but I didn't care. Construction site accident. Beam fell. Sounds about right. She glanced at my chart. I saw your name on the admissions list yesterday. I froze for a second. Thought I was imagining it. Yesterday? So did somebody else. What do you mean? Dr. Sarah Mitchell. She asked about my family. I told her I didn't have any, and she looked like she'd seen a ghost. Her hand froze on the door handle. Then she left the room and never came back. Grace's smile faded, just slightly. That's strange. Really strange, actually. You know her? Not personally. I know of her. She's been at this hospital a long time, longer than me. Grace hesitated, glancing at the door like she wanted to make sure it was closed. Ethan, when I saw your name yesterday, it wasn't just because I remembered you from the cancer ward. It's because I never forgot you. Not once, in 13 years. I used to wonder what happened to you after you got discharged. I got better eventually. Grew up. Learned to keep people at a distance so it wouldn't happen again. That's not what I meant, but I hear you. She squeezed my hand, warm and familiar. I'll ask around about Dr. Mitchell, okay? Quietly. See what I can find out without making it obvious. Thank you. She stood to leave, then stopped at the door. For what it's worth, I never stopped thinking you deserved better than what happened to you back then. After she left, I stared at the ceiling for a long time. 3 floors down, though I wouldn't learn this until later, Mark Ellison was sitting in the hospital's records office, doing Grace a favor. You're sure about this? The records clerk asked him. Pulling files that old requires a supervisor sign-off. I've got clearance. Just checking something for a friend. Mark scrolled through the scanned documents on the screen. Ethan Cole. Admission from 13 years ago. He found the guardianship transfer first. Standard state paperwork. Then he found something odd. A second document, tucked behind the first, with a line at the bottom where a guardian's signature should have been. The name was blacked out. Not missing. Blacked out deliberately, with a thick line of ink someone had drawn by hand, over and over, like they'd wanted to make sure it could never be read again. Mark leaned closer to the screen, adjusting the brightness, but it didn't matter. The ink had done its job. Who redacts their own name off a state file? He muttered to himself. He printed the page and folded it carefully into his jacket pocket. Somebody, 13 years ago, had gone out of their way to erase themselves from Ethan Cole's story completely. And whoever it was, Mark intended to find out exactly why. I didn't expect to see my father's face again. Not like this, not walking through my hospital room door like he'd just stepped out for coffee. Ethan. He said my name like it was still normal for him to say it, like 13 years hadn't passed since the last time. Richard. I sat up slowly, my ribs protesting the movement. What are you doing here? I heard about the accident. I came as soon as I could. You heard how? We haven't spoken in 13 years, and suddenly you know which hospital I'm in. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, hands buried in his pockets. Word gets around. It's a small city, Ethan. Try again. That's not an answer. He sighed, and for a second, I saw the same weak man who used to fold under Diane's voice through a hospital wall. Jason needs a bone marrow transplant. His doctors ran every test they could. You're the only match they've found. There it was. So this isn't about me at all. Ethan, he's your brother. Half-brother. And the last time either of you thought about me, I was 16 years old signing paperwork I didn't understand while you disappeared. That wasn't, he stopped himself. It was complicated. It wasn't complicated. Diane wanted me gone, and you let her have it. Richard's jaw tightened. I'm asking you, as your father, to help your brother. You gave up the right to call yourself that. He didn't have an answer for that. He just stood there, looking older than I remembered, looking like a man who'd finally run out of ways to avoid the truth. I'll think about it, I said, mostly to get him out of the room. Jason doesn't have much time. I said I'll think about it. He left without another word. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I hadn't saved in years. Diane, Ethan, I know things ended badly between us. But Jason is your family. Whatever happened when you were 16, that's the past now. Family helps family. I hope you still remember that, even after everything. I read it twice. Family helps family. As if she hadn't spent months whispering in Richard's ear, convincing him to hand me over to the state so Jason's college fund would stay untouched and comfortable. I typed 3 different responses. You erased me for money. Delete. You don't get to call me family now. Delete. I'll think about it. No promises. I deleted that one too, and put the phone face down on the tray table instead. I wasn't ready to answer her yet, not with words she could twist and use against me later. Dr. Mitchell walked in a few minutes later to check my chart, though I noticed she barely looked at it. Her eyes kept flicking toward the door, like she already knew who'd just left. "You okay?" she asked, though her eyes stayed on the door a beat too long before landing on me. "You saw him leave." "I did." She hesitated, fingers tightening slightly around the clipboard. "Richard Cole. You know his name? You didn't even glance at my chart. It's on your intake form. Emergency contact history." Her answer came too fast, too rehearsed, like a line she'd practiced in the hallway before walking in. "He wants me to be a bone marrow donor for my brother." Her hand tightened around the clipboard. "Are you going to do it?" "I don't know. 13 years ago they erased me like I never existed. Now they need something from my body, and suddenly I'm family again." "That's not fair to you," she said quietly. "None of that was fair. You keep reacting like this is personal for you too." "What?" She looked at me for a long moment, and I thought, for just a second, she was actually going to tell me. Her lips parted. Then a page came over the intercom, calling her to another floor. "I have to go," she said, already moving toward the door. "Dr. Mitchell." She stopped, hand on the handle again, same as the first day. "Why do you care so much about what happens to me? A stranger you've met twice." "Because everyone deserves someone who fights for them," she said, not turning around, her voice barely above a whisper. "Even when it's 13 years too late to matter." Then she was gone, and I was left staring at the closed door, my brother's life sitting heavy in my hands, and a doctor's secret sitting somewhere just out of reach, close enough to touch, but too far to grab. 2 days passed, and I still hadn't given Richard an answer. My phone filled up with missed calls from numbers I didn't save. Then Mark Ellison showed up in my room, a folder tucked under his arm, and a look on his face like he'd been carrying something heavy for a while. "You don't know me," he said, "but Grace asked me to look into something for you." "And you are?" "Mark Ellison. I work in hospital administration. Records, mostly." He set the folder on my tray table. "I found your old file. There's a redacted signature line where a guardian should have signed off on your transfer." "Redacted how?" "Blacked out by hand. Somebody didn't want their name attached to it." My stomach turned. "You have any idea who?" "Not yet, but I found something else." He pulled out his phone. "This is a call recording from an old case file, unrelated to yours originally, but Diane Cole's name came up in a financial dispute years back. Somebody recorded a conversation between her and a state caseworker. Play it." He hit play. Diane's voice came through, tinny but unmistakable. "If he's declared a ward of the state, the medical costs come off our books entirely. My son's college fund stays untouched. That's all I'm asking you to help me arrange." I sat there frozen, hearing 13 years of silence explained in 11 seconds. "She planned it," I said. "She didn't just let it happen. She built it." "Looks that way." My phone buzzed. Richard, calling for the 4th time that day. I answered without thinking. "Ethan, please, we need an answer." Jason's fever spiked again. "I heard a recording of Diane today," I said, "talking to a caseworker about my medical costs and Jason's college fund." Silence on the line. Long enough that I thought he'd hung up. "Richard, I didn't know she called anyone," he said finally, his voice cracking. "I swear to you, I didn't know the details. I just knew we couldn't afford everything, and she said she had a solution." "You signed the papers, Richard. You knew enough." I was weak. His voice broke completely now. "I let her make every decision because I couldn't face losing the house, losing Jason's future, losing everything at once. I told myself you'd be taken care of. I told myself it wasn't abandonment. It was exactly that. I know. God help me, I know that now." He was crying. I could hear it. "Jason doesn't have much time left, Ethan. I'm not asking as your father anymore. I don't have the right to ask as your father. I'm asking as a man who's watching his son die and has nobody else to turn to." I hung up without answering. A few hours later, Dr. Mitchell came into my room and shut the door behind her, quieter than usual. "I need to tell you something," she said, "and I need you to let me finish before you say anything." "Okay." She pulled the chair close to my bed, closer than she ever had before. 13 years ago, I was a first-year resident. I was assigned to process the transfer paperwork for a teenage cancer patient being moved into state custody. Her hands were shaking. "That patient was you, Ethan. You processed my file?" "I was told it was standard procedure." I was told the parents had agreed and just needed someone to finalize it. I didn't ask enough questions. I was 24, terrified of losing my position, and I did what my supervisor told me to do. That's why you froze. When I said I don't have any family. I've carried that moment for 13 years, she said, her voice breaking. I've wondered what happened to that boy every single day since. And then yesterday, he walked back into my hospital and sat in my exam room like fate had decided I needed to face it. I didn't know what to say. Anger and something softer were pulling at me from two different directions at once. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said. I don't think I deserve it. I just needed you to know the truth. Dr. Mitchell came back that evening, later than her shift should have allowed, and this time she brought a folder of her own, thin and worn at the edges like she'd opened it many times before. I told you someone else signed that redacted line, she said, sitting down in the chair beside my bed. It wasn't me, but I was the one who kept it hidden all these years. Kept what hidden? After I filed your transfer, I couldn't stop thinking about you. So I flagged your case in our internal system. Quietly. If you were ever admitted anywhere in this hospital network again, it would notify me directly. You've been watching for my name for 13 years? I told myself it was so I could help if you ever needed anything. Medical history, insurance gaps, whatever fell through the cracks when the state took over. She opened the folder. I couldn't legally intervene back then. I was a resident with no authority and a supervisor who made it very clear what would happen if I asked too many questions. But I could make sure that if you ever walked through these doors again, somebody would actually see you. So when I said I don't have any family, the system flagged your name the second you were admitted. I saw it before I ever walked into your room. I already knew what I was going to hear before you said it. Her voice cracked. Hearing you say it out loud anyway still broke something in me. I sat there, jaw tight, trying to sort through what I felt. Anger came first, sharp and immediate. 13 years, and you never once tried to find me? Never sent a letter, never checked in. I wasn't allowed to. I asked, more than once, and I was told it wasn't my place. I was 24 and terrified of losing my license for stepping outside my role. That's not good enough. I know it's not. She didn't flinch from that. I'm not telling you this so you'll forgive me. I'm telling you because you deserve to know that somebody was paying attention, even from a distance, even when it wasn't enough. Something in her voice cracked through the anger, just slightly. Underneath it was something that looked a lot like grief. Grace walked in a minute later and found me sitting there, unmoving, staring at the folder like it might explain everything if I looked hard enough at it. Ethan, she sat on the edge of my bed, careful of the foreline. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. She's been tracking my file for 13 years, I said, making sure someone would know if I ever showed up in a hospital again, anywhere in the whole network. That's... Grace searched for the right word, her brow furrowed. That's not nothing, Ethan. It's not enough either. No, Grace agreed. It's not enough. But it's more than your father and Diane ever did, and I think you know that. I didn't answer. I just sat there while she held my hand, letting the anger and the strange, unwanted gratitude sit side by side in my chest without forcing either one to win. The door opened again before I could say anything else. Richard and Diane, standing together like they'd rehearsed it. Ethan, please, Diane said immediately. Jason's condition worsened overnight. The doctors are saying if we don't move soon. You didn't even ask how I'm doing, I said. You walked in talking about Jason before you said my name. Diane's expression flickered, annoyed at being caught. I'm sorry. How are you feeling? You don't actually care? You're asking because you think it'll help your case. That's not fair. Nothing about the last 13 years has been fair, Diane. Don't lecture me about fairness now. Richard stepped forward, quieter than her. We're not here to argue. We're here because we're scared, and you're the only person who can help. I need time, I said. I'm not giving you an answer standing in this room with both of you staring at me like I owe you something. You don't have time, Diane snapped. Jason doesn't have time. Grace's hand tightened around mine. Get out, I said. Both of you. I'll call when I've decided. Diane opened her mouth to argue. Richard put a hand on her arm and pulled her toward the door instead. They left, and the room went quiet again, except for the sound of my own heartbeat still rattling from everything all at once. Dr. Mitchell's confession, Grace's steady hand, and the two people who once erased me now begging for something only I could give them. I called Richard the next morning. I'll do the testing, I said. Not for you. Not for Diane. I'm doing it for Jason, Because he didn't choose any of this either, and he shouldn't pay for what the rest of you did. Ethan, thank you. I'm not finished. After this, whatever happens, I don't want calls, texts, or surprise visits. This isn't the start of something between us. It's a decision I'm making for one reason only, and that reason is Jason. I understand. Do you? Because I need you to actually hear me this time, not just agree so the conversation ends faster. I hear you, he said, quieter than I'd ever heard him sound. I don't deserve the chance to hear you at all, honestly. The testing confirmed what everyone already suspected. I was a match. The procedure happened 3 days later, and I spent most of it asleep, waking up sore in a different way than the accident had left me. Grace was there when I opened my eyes. How's Jason? I asked, throat dry. Stable. Doctors are optimistic. She poured me water. You did a good thing, Ethan. I did a necessary thing. There's a difference. Maybe, but it still counts. Word got around the family fast, the way it always does. Diane's sister, apparently, had known about the old recording for years and finally couldn't stay quiet once Jason's surgery brought the whole family back together in one hospital waiting room. By the time I was discharged, half the family had heard exactly what Diane did 13 years ago, and nobody looked at her the same way again. She's furious, Grace told me, scrolling through a message from someone Diane had once been close with. Nobody's speaking to her, not even her own sister. Good. You don't sound like you mean that. I don't know what I mean anymore. I just know it's not my job to fix what she broke. Richard called one more time, a week later. I almost didn't answer, my thumb hovering over the screen for 3 full rings before I picked up. I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly, like he expected me to hang up before he finished. I just needed to say I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not the kind I've said before that came with an excuse attached to it. Okay. I was weak, Ethan. I let fear make every decision for me, and it cost me my son, my real son, the one I should have fought for no matter what it cost us. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to hear it, one time, without asking for anything back in return. I sat with the phone against my ear for a long moment. Thank you for saying that. That's all. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Richard. I hung up, and something in my chest loosened that had been tight for 13 years. Not forgiveness, exactly. Something closer to release. Dr. Mitchell checked on me before my final discharge, clipboard in hand like always. You did good, she said. So did you. Eventually. She smiled, small and tired. I'd like to stay in touch, if that's something you'd want. No pressure. I'd want that. Grace walked in right as I was signing my discharge papers. Ready to get out of here? More than ready. A new doctor stopped by for the final paperwork, someone I hadn't met before, clipboard in hand just like Dr. Mitchell had carried on my first day here. Just a few last questions, she said. Emergency contact information, in case we need to reach anyone. I looked at Grace, standing by the window with her arms crossed, smiling like she already knew what I was about to say. I looked at Dr. Mitchell in the doorway, watching quietly. Grace Bennett, I said, and Dr. Sarah Mitchell. Write them both down. The new doctor paused, pen hovering. Are they family? I thought about Richard's broken apology. I thought about Diane's silence. I thought about 13 years of believing I had nobody at all. Yes, I said. They're my family. And for the first time since I was 16 years old, sitting in a hospital bed with a diagnosis that changed everything, I actually meant it, all the way down.